Finally, after 8.5 years of campaigning about Brexit, I can prove that the Brexiteers lied and misled the British public and have put the British public at severe risk because of Brexit. Over the years, there have been numerous pledges by the various Brexiteers about what Brexit would mean for our food, our environment and animal welfare.
You guarantee that imports will have to be at the same standard that we grow?
Yes, absolutely. There's no point in having high environmental and high animal welfare standards if you then allow them to be undercut from outside. And ultimately, if you have high standards here and then you allow food in from elsewhere, you're not really contributing to animal welfare or higher environmental standards. You're simply offshoring those low standards, and that's wrong.
So that's a red line with your trade colleagues, with Liam Fox and others who are negotiating or will be negotiating trade deals around the world. You're going to say absolutely no dilution. Imports must be to our standards.
Absolutely.
The campaigners on the Remain side were always supposedly scaremongering about the fact that Brexit would ensure a drop to the bottom of standards. And that is exactly what is happening. And we can now prove this.
The government's being urged to do more to make sure that post-Brexit farming and animal standards are guaranteed in law. There's concern new legislation currently going through Parliament could result in a lowering of food standards in future trade deals. The celebrity chef, Jamie Oliver, is one of those lobbying the government, as our political correspondent Alex Forsyth reports.
British farming has to follow some pretty strict rules to protect both the animals they rear and the food they produce. Since Brexit, there's been a campaign underway to make sure those same standards apply to food produced in other countries the UK might trade with. And they've got some high-profile backing.
You know, there's hundreds of banned pesticides and herbicides that we don't use in Britain that they do in North America. A bad trade deal is bad for public health. That's my main concern is child health, my main concern. But then, of course, it's public health. Their parents, they're pretty important too. And then you've got farming. We've got a farming community that holds some of the best standards in the world. If they have to fight against an influx of lower standard products, they're not geared up for that.
The government's repeatedly said standards won't be compromised, but campaigners want that to be legally binding.
No one person should ever be able to promise the British public that it's all going to be all right. That's why we have legal frameworks. Blimmin' hell, like, all we're asking for is debate in Parliament and not a backdoor to do a quick deal.
You know the government has set up this Agriculture and Trade Commission, which they say can oversee the trade deals, make sure the standards are up to scratch. Why is that not enough?
Because they don't have any legal power, as far as I can work out. So for me, it just feels like a gesture just to shut everyone up.
Despite the government's reassurance, there's pressure building here too.
Next week, the Agriculture Bill is before the House of Commons. That's part of the framework for food and farming after Brexit. The government has repeatedly promised food standards won't slip in future trade deals. But some MPs, including some Conservative backbenchers, want that written into law.
Ministers, though, say they simply won't sign a deal that undercuts the British market, pointing out Parliament will have a say.
We're absolutely clear that we're going to stand up for our high standards in any deal we strike, including with the United States, and making sure that the high standards our farmers operate to will not be undermined.
Some argue restrictive regulations could jeopardise future trade deals with other countries.
If we then respond to their requests by saying we're going to be more restrictive than really any country in the world, it would drive a stake into the heart of our trade negotiating agenda.
But many in the UK's farming communities remain concerned. Already operating in a tough economic climate, they're fearful about the future. Alex Forsyth.
Pan-UK has done research over the last couple of years, and we can prove categorically that substandard food is here in Britain because the last government changed the law and allowed lower standard foods to come in here. Those foods are grown using chemicals which are banned here. And this has a detrimental effect on our public health. It also risks or damages our food security, because this lower standard food puts our British farmers out of business. It undercuts our farmers. On top of that, when this food has been ingested, it is then washed into the sewage system. And as we all know, our sewage system is failing again, thanks to Brexit and years of underinvestment, and corporate profiteering means that our rivers are now awash with worse pesticides than there were before.
It goes again. The dirty, filthy sewage water and the kind of clear river water around it. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I could definitely see bits of toilet paper. You can see some on the surface there. So there's the swans eating from sewage. I mean, what more can you really say?
And this again is a catch-22 that we are caught in, and impacts our lives and our livestock lives and the meat and products, milk that's coming from those animals, because when the rivers overflow, those chemicals are going onto our fields and into the grass that animals are eating.
It's absolutely clear that our environmental and food standards will not be loosened in any way as a result of leaving the EU and doing free trade deals with other countries, including America.
Yes, so we can have a green Brexit that ensures that Britain is an environmental leader.
We have spent decades trying to improve standards, environmental standards and food standards. And we have made huge progress with life expectancy. But since Brexit, that has gone into reverse and we are going backwards. And is it any wonder when Brexit is doing this to our food? This new government have promised to align to EU regulations and get a veterinary agreement. This means that they have to work to ensure that British farmers are not undercut by low standard foods. To protect Northern Ireland and the Windsor Framework, they also have a duty to do this. Last week, they signed a trade deal, a new deal with Thailand. This means that if they are going to uphold their manifesto pledge, they have to amend or withdraw from current trade agreements. We have CPTPP, which we are still acceding to. Other countries are ratifying our membership to this trade bloc. Being in this trade bloc, many campaigners believe, will ensure the gravity will pull us towards lower standards. Most of these countries in CPTPP use chemicals and pesticides which are banned in the European Union and the UK. And so this new government has to really stop facing both ways. It has to decide if we either are going back into the European Union single market and remaining within their orbit around regulations, or we're going to do the full-on Singapore supposed on Thames or Venezuela on Thames, whichever way you want to look at it, and deregulate. But what we ask for is honesty, because for years we've had governments saying one thing and doing another, and that is no good for politics and it's no good for business.
Environment Secretary is a really important job, and I'm flattered that Theresa May, as Prime Minister, has asked me to rejoin her team, and I hope to play a part in ensuring that as we prepare to leave the European Union and things like the Common Agricultural Policy no longer apply, that we safeguard what's best in our environment and make sure also that those who make our countryside beautiful and who keep it productive are at the very heart of policy making.
Was it unexpected to get the call though?
I was quite surprised, I have to say. I was down in Surrey and I was just enjoying the afternoon with a friend when suddenly the phone rang and there was an invitation to go to number 10 Downing Street. Of course, I knew that today was reshuffle day, but I genuinely didn't expect this role. So I am delighted to be part of the government and delighted to be able to support Theresa to ensure that we have a government capable of delivering.